Hello and welcome back. Brett here with clickmill.co. This is number 5, value 5 here. And we are going to be talking about getting feedback. And I want to give you sort of a mental picture of what your ministry is without feedback. Now, what's feedback? Well, you probably all of you have been in the auditorium or in a church. Even if you're a Christian business, you've probably been in a church and they're testing the mics, they're testing the sound, and you get that like, woo, and it gets super loud and everybody's like freaking out to turn it off. That's feedback. The what am I saying? The microphones pick up the sound, the speakers put it out close enough to the microphone that the microphone picks up the speaker sound and sends it back to the speaker, and it amplifies the feedback, and it just like blows the whole thing up if you don't turn it off. Well, that's bad feedback. Good feedback is feedback you should have in your ministry, and that works like this. Suppose you have a super cool Tesla car, and inside the car is a mechanism with a rule that says, when the car turns on, drive straight. Let's just say that's all that the electric car has. It's super, super smart. It's actually kind of a dumb car. Say it's super dumb. And when turn on, drive straight. And it turns out the road in front of you straight. Great. So you're driving straight on the road. And then what happens? Well, at some point, that road's going to start curving. But the car's driving itself. It's self-drive. It's autopilot or whatever it is. And so that car keeps going straight. And what's happening to the road? The road just turned that way. And now you're driving up a cliff. That's what happens with ministries with no feedback mechanisms in Christian businesses, both. And so you have to have a feedback mechanism. And how does that work with an electric car? Well, when the car turns on, drive straight and use the cameras. Oh, okay. So it's looking at the cameras. Okay. When the road turns, then follow the road. Oh, so the road starts turning and the car has that feedback that feeds back into its decision making, and then it turns with the road. So with Christian ministry leaders, you have to work a feedback mechanism that assesses reality and then feeds it back into your decision-making process, or you're going to go right off of a cliff. And this happens with Fortune 500 companies and huge ministries because they missed the feedback mechanisms and they couldn't navigate. It's like having the Titanic, but everybody driving it's blind. And I guess that's not even necessary because they all had eyes and it still hadn't hit an iceberg. They weren't using their feedback mechanisms the way they were supposed to. So they didn't turn the ship and they hit the iceberg. Okay, so what are feedback mechanisms in your ministry? That could be a survey. And if you want the best 3 questions I've ever found for a survey, I'm going to give them to you right now. Write them down. For a ministry or for a business, this is the same. It's all the same. If you have a service, whether it is a church service or a Bible study or whatever it is, or you have a service business, it's very similar for product businesses. It's all the same thing because human nature is the same. So I'm teaching you stuff that is widely applicable, but what's the most impact? What am I saying? What's the current biggest problem in your life? Okay. And if you're in business, you just tweak that a little bit because church is about life. You know, if you're running a church ministry, if you're running a Christian marketplace ministry, it's more like, what's the biggest problem in your life as it relates to whatever you do, something like that. And then what is the biggest need that you currently have? And that's life for ministries, right? Christian ministries, churches, that's just life as a whole. If you're a Christian business owner, then obviously, what's the biggest need you have in this area of your life? You can't do everything. And then number 3, as it pertains, what is the most impactful experience you've ever had with whatever you are? So if you're a Christian business owner, what's the most impactful experience you've ever had with, a marketing firm in my case, or in your case with me in a subscription course website? Is this it? Is it another one? What'd they do? Because if you told me that, I would know, and then I could make this better, and this could be the most impactful experience. And that reminds me, I have a question for you after this. So, so coming back to the churches, what's the most impactful experience you've ever had with a Christian ministry, with a church? And ask what it is, because that's going to tell you usually the platform through it. Well, I went on a conference once. okay, maybe you should have conferences. If 80% of your congregation is saying the word conference, you should have a conference. If 80 of them are like, yeah, I was at this home group, Bible study at someone's house once, you should probably have Bible studies at people's houses. Well, if 80% of people are saying, yeah, um, in the last 5 years, I've lost someone that I really loved and I've had a really hard time grieving. And then they're also telling you that the most impactful experience they've ever had is at somebody's in living room Bible study. You should have in living room Bible studies about grief. Or, you see what I'm saying? So get feedback. So I hope this is helpful for you. These 5 values, they're very counterintuitive to what we find in many, not all, but many Christian ministries struggle with this. I talk to Christian ministries. And that is a survey, 3-question survey. Keep it simple. Sometimes you're gonna have to do it in person and just literally write down, because a lot of people don't want to do that. Secondly, data. You have to learn. I know it doesn't sound fun. It's actually really fun once you do it, because you can see the growth. It's like, oh my gosh, it's going up. um should have seen my eyes the day that I realized that we hit like 1,500 daily hits on our website. It was like we were at 3 a year and a half prior, and then I was like looking at it. I was like, oh my gosh, praise God. Anyway, um, so you need to learn how to read analytic data. It's not nearly as hard as you think, but it gives you a way to assess reality and say, hold on a second, we're getting further away from that thing we want to track, like people coming into church on a monthly basis. Oh, well, we're usually at 50, we're at 20. That's a problem. How do we course correct? What did we do to throw us off track? And then you feed that back in and you figure out what you changed and you fix it. And now you're back on the road. The car's back on the road. You're not going toward the cliff anymore. So we'll have trainings on analytic data and metrics and surveys, I'm sure, here at some point as well. So that's getting feedback. And as it pertains to feedback, I would love your feedback as someone who wants to be a high performing Christian, who wants to make a difference in the kingdom. I want to know in the comments, and really seriously, I'm going to take what you tell me and we're going to optimize this course with it. This is our first run through, and I want to hear what you have to say. So we can meet that need. So number one, what is the biggest problem you're facing in your Christian ministry, in your entrepreneurial journey, whatever it is? What's the biggest problem you're facing? Something that comes to my mind, I don't know if you're a men's ministry leader and you're not a pastor, but you want to make a difference. If you're already a pastor, if you're a Christian entrepreneur, but you haven't success, and I'm saying entrepreneur because God makes, calls people to pastoring and calls people to entrepreneurship. If you're a Christian entrepreneur, but you haven't gotten that first business started yet, but you just know that's where God's taking you. Or maybe you're a Christian entrepreneur and you're like, yeah, I got 10 businesses. So what's the biggest need, and who are you? That would help me so much to create content that is beneficial for you. And maybe there's something that you have and you're like, well, he totally missed it. Well, I need to know. So what's the biggest problem you're facing in the call that God has for you as someone who is a high performing Christian? And then secondly, what's the biggest need that you have? What can we help you with? Can we give you website templates? Can I give you workflows for content creation? We run a marketing firm. I have lots of resources in those areas. What do you need to do what you need to do successfully? Obviously training, but what else? And then lastly, what's the most impactful experience you've ever had with a subscription course like this? A course subscription, live training, webinars, those types of things. Let me know so we can give you the best possible experience here in the ClickMill training program. So thank you so much for being here. Next, looks like we got a bonus lesson in here, which is a live training on these 5 values in our weekly training program. And if you sign up for the $49 a month version subscription plan, you get access to our weekly training call with me. You can ask questions, and I have a lesson every week that we go into and we train to make a bigger and outsized disproportionate impact here while we're here for the kingdom. So thank you so much for being here in this course. God bless.